Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
A Muslim inmate calls the faithful to prayer in a cinder-block classroom mosque on Rikers Island. Muslim inmates gather here each week to escape the dreary routine of the nation's largest municipal jail system. Under the watchful eye of a security camera and the gaze of mostly African-American prisoners, Imam Minalik Muhammad delivers his sermon.
You will not be considered a Muslim unless people are safe from your hands and your tongue.
Since the September 11th attacks, Islam in the nation's prisons has come under scrutiny. Lawmakers, federal agencies, and religious leaders want to know what kind of Islam is being practiced behind bars, and if it's a threat to national security.
Terrorist recruitment in prisons and jails is indeed a potentially serious concern for our country.
Paul Rogers is the head of a prominent prison chaplains association. He told a Senate panel in 2003 that poor supervision and unqualified chaplains could lead to the abuse of religious programs. Chuck Colson, the former Nixon aide during Watergate and evangelical founder of Prison Fellowship Ministries, also offered a dire warning. He said angry inmates are ripe for terrorist plucking, and radical Islamists know it. And Democratic Senator Charles Schumer said hardline Wahhabi imams with ties to Saudi Arabia are filling prisoners with the same kind of militant ideas that drove the 9/11 hijackers to kill thousands of Americans. The concern over militant Islam in American prisons followed the arrest of former gang member Jose Padilla.
Mr. Padilla, sir, you've been arrested for the following charges: carrying a concealed firearm.
This 1991 video shows Padilla facing a Florida judge on weapons and assault charges. A decade after this court appearance, Padilla had completed his sentence, converted to Islam, and authorities say planned a dirty bomb attack with al-Qaeda. Padilla's arrest came less than 6 months after Richard Reed, a man who converted to Islam in a British prison, attempted to detonate a shoe bomb aboard an American Airlines jet. The arrests of Padilla and Reed sparked a Justice Department investigation on Muslim chaplains in American prisons. An April 2004 report said the Bureau of Prisons and the FBI failed to screen the beliefs of chaplains for security threats, or offer adequate supervision for volunteers who have ample opportunity to deliver inappropriate and extremist messages. But some Muslim chaplains and former inmates say talk of national security concerns misses what is really going on among Muslims behind bars. In this Harlem neighborhood, Mikhail DeVoe conducts his daily prayers in a small storefront office. Following a murder conviction, DeVoe spent 25 years in the New York prison system, where he became a prayer leader. He says many inmates often discover a refuge from the dangers of prison life in the Muslim community.
People may have been informants. It's a good place to hide. Let me put on a kufi and hide in the mosque. People may have had problems with other inmates. They may have been enemies. So here's a source of protection.
DeVoe says Muslims in prison are isolated from outside influences, and the Islam he has learned does not promote terrorism.
What people should say is, Islam is what the Prophet Muhammad says Islam is, and that is to testify that there's the one God, none worthy of worship except Allah, to make the prayers, to pay, your charity, to fast in the month of Ramadan, and to make Hajj. That's Islam. Now, anything else you're talking about, that's not Islam. Bombing folks, that's not Islam.
People are looking and they gravitate to something to give meaning.
Imam Umar Abdul Jalil leads the chaplains program on Rikers Island. He says militant Islam isn't on the minds of most Muslim inmates.
How do I get out of jail? What am I going to do when I get out of jail? Those are paramount issues.
Abdul Jalil says the vast majority of prison chaplains are concerned with reforming prisoners who will return someday to America's streets.
We teach the holistic approach to life. Family reunification. What are you going to do when you leave here? Are you prepared to leave here? Do you have a drug problem? What are you doing while you're here to treat that problem?
Abdul Jalil and other Muslim chaplains say they have not seen attempts by al-Qaeda or other terrorist groups to radicalize inmates. And outside the barbed wires and concrete walls, the question over the nature of Islam in America's prisons remains unresolved. The struggle for Islam in this arena has deep implications, not only for national security, but for the acceptance of Islam alongside other major faiths in America. Walter Ratliff, The Associated Press.